Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It seems they know 100% what's coming. They know domination is coming from DLT, from bank coin companies. This might be easy. And this is why you're seeing all this movement happening, all of these discussions. So you're seeing pressure from legitimate participants in the financial industry on regulators. So now the participants are pressuring the regulators because they know now they can get what they want. That's number one. So keep that in mind. Number two, we're seeing all of these big discussions where they're admitting things they never discussed before, things they never even talked about this stuff like this before, but they're doing it out in the open now. Well, at least for those who have eyes to see, right? Those who are in the know, which obviously you're in the know. And so we have articles like this titled, and keep in mind, one thing that bank coins can do, like XRP, like now we got to put Solana in there now that they've done what they've been doing the last 3 weeks. Have you seen that? But those two as an example, they can do B2B payments better than anybody. We've been talking about this. So now we're this much closer to that moment. We're this much closer to them. Well, I mean, pretty much if you're listening to their discussions, they're admitting they need this technology. Let's read it here. Let's read this here. This article is titled, B2B payments have listen to this number, $120 trillion generational divide. What does that really mean when you boil it down? What it mean, a generational divide, that means that there's a $120 trillion problem. That's what it means. So they need a solution. Now, let's read this little tidbit, okay? It says, as young generation, so the future of B2B payments is getting closer than it looks. Sounds similar to what I've been saying, right? We're this close. Now they're literally saying it's getting closer. Why are they saying this? Because at a certain point, they have no choice. They have to update. They have to upgrade. And they haven't been able to do it yet. What they have been using is not good enough. Number one. Number two, the legacy system offerings have been out there for years. E-payment systems that are very similar to your Venmos, to your PayPals, to what's the other? Venmos, PayPal. There was another one I wanted to reference. What's the one that's in all the trouble? The banks use it for like, it's pretty much an account to account type of system. What is that? Zelle. I remembered. Zelle has been in a lot of trouble. That's why. Okay. Another thing I want to insert here. Did you see the article like maybe 2-3 weeks ago where there is a new thing that they're trying to do, right? Where they want to incorporate Zelle. They're experimenting with the same, not Zelle, but the same company that built Zelle, runs Zelle. They want them to be a part of a system that the legacy system, the big banks, are experimenting with. How's that going to work when Zelle, what they made originally, is in so much trouble? How's that going to work? How do you trust that company? Anytime there's money lost with Zelle, don't worry, we're going to circle back around and get back to this, but I need to make this point to negate any type of argument that even believes the legacy system could do anything versus us, because they can't, or they would have already. They haven't because they can't. But anyway, so why would you believe that a company can build something that's going to be sustainable into the future when their current product isn't sustainable? You have politicians going against Zelle. They're in court over Zelle. The customers are mad at Zelle. Their money's going missing. Look it up for yourself. Now, circling back around, the legacy system can't stop us. They're going to need us, but this is going to tell you some more. So now back to this. As young generations take on more influence in procurement and finance, the demand for intuitive, tech-forward experiences is beginning to accelerate. From virtual card acceptance to embedded accounts payable / accounts receivable, AP/AR automation, the B2B payment space, worth an estimated $120 trillion annually. We can feast. If all these bank coin companies have to do is do their job, stay ahead of the curve. They're already ahead. Stay ahead. Take all the meetings that you can. Close those deals. Do well. Don't be arrogant. Close those deals, right? Humble yourself if you need to, and close those, bring in those partnerships. That's all. At this point, this should be the easy, this next year, 2, 3, this should be the easy part. But let's keep going. 120, if they take a piece of that, this is merely one aspect. Think about that. This is B2B, trillions. RWA, trillions. Interbank payments, trillions. You take a piece of this and that and this, you have an explosion in price, right? Right. Let's keep going. Way higher than, let's take XRP as an example. You're looking at explosion in price way higher than a $6, $8, $10. If the game is played correctly, let's keep going. Listen to what they're saying. They're admitting a truth. So it says the B2B payment space, worth an estimated $120 trillion annually, is being asked to evolve or risk becoming irrelevant. Right. Come on now. Because of that type of event horizon moment ensures they have to act. So then it becomes just a matter of when do they act? Who do they act with? If one can find that out, not financial advice, but if one can find that out, then they're going to have the key to unlocking massive amounts of value. And an investor who knows that, who recognizes what companies are going to be involved in solving that type of problem, are going to be able to make a lot of capital. That's very simple. You know the problem. You know they need a solution. This is the solution. You invested in the solution. The solution skyrockets when the news hits. It skyrockets when they start utilizing the solution. Then maybe there's another little pop once everybody sees the solution functions well, so more want to adopt it. Right? Let's keep going because they talk about a lot of things here. It's a good article. At the heart of the shift is a generational realignment that has placed a new kind of employee at the center of financial decision making. One who grew up with Venmo, not vendor checks. That's another thing. I'm going to scroll down here. Let me scroll down. I'm going to jump. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to make sure I don't skip it. There was something very potent here. Let's read this little part. Quote, there's a fundamental misalignment between the expectations of the younger generation and the reality of how things happen in the workplace, unquote, Hell said. Quote, there's an interesting stat. 44% of Gen Zers don't even know how to write a check. At the same time, 1/3 of B2B payments are still made via check. That misalignment is becoming more and more prevalent, unquote. Why is that important, folks? Well, firstly, these new generation people, they want things simple. They want it, and I understand. Yes, they should have it simple. They want it digital. They want it quick, and they want it efficiently. That's number one. So what can give them that? Obviously, well, they already said, they referenced Venmo. So all of these things, these e-money systems, Venmo, your PayPals, your Zelles, have been around for a long time now. So why didn't B2B adopt them? Not them directly, but that style of technology. Why didn't they adopt them? Okay, so let's say let's just pretend we can't answer that question, but we know for a fact they haven't adopted that type of system. So what were they waiting on? What were they waiting on? But wait a minute. Simultaneously, while they're not adopting these e-money, electronic money systems, right? And we're making that differentiation as established by the Bank for International Settlements, or Bank of International Settlements, however you put that, the BIS. They differentiated between electronic money systems like those, that was the category here. And when you say digital, it means DLT, blockchain, crypto, the big dog on the block, the money maker. Everybody knows it's the money maker. They know it already. It's already over. The big businesses know it. They're showing their hand by purchasing, making large purchases of these top cryptos. They've been exposed and will continue to be. But to each his own. Simultaneously, while not adopting those e-money systems, they've been talking positively about DLT. They've been talking how they want to utilize DLT. And they waited and waited and waited. Did they not? Yes, they did. For years, they've waited. They didn't make any massive changes, hence why they're still writing on paper. They're still signing paper checks because they've been waiting for the bank coin companies, DLT companies, Ripple, companies like that specialize in B2B payments, payments of all kind. I told you, don't just limit them to any cross-border payments. They're doing payments of all kind. That's why they experimented with payroll. That's why they experimented with offline QR code payments. Offline QR code payments lets you know when someone is thinking about going deep into RWA, which they talked about years ago, because RWA is trillions. RWA may be some of the easiest trillions or the easiest value made once it's fully rolled out. And they go just 100% all out with RWA, which all industries are going to make that push. But that's probably will be the easiest money ever made, value ever made. To be honest, everybody's going to be selling everything, fragmenting everything. But nonetheless, Ripple and companies like them, the bank coin companies, specialize in offline QR code payments. So you can scan a bag of grain or here or there, track it, fragment your farm and sell a piece here. You're still working the farm, but these people have now they own this piece of the farm to get a percentage of what of what you're bringing in, something like that. I'm just using it as an example. So payroll, RWA, all types of not only international payments, local payments. Make no mistake about it. These companies want it all. And that's why you're seeing the legacy system making this big push on the regulators, because they want to play. And the way that they want to play, they don't want anything holding them back. Wait. I know there was something else here that I wanted to bring to you from this article. We can't go through everything. It's a long article, very good article. We can't go through everything. I think it was here. Let's read this little tidbit here. I think it was here. There was another potent thing. It says, and it's under the section in case you want to find it, titled Straight Through Processing the Supplier Side of the Coin. It says part of the challenge is solving one aspect of the payment lifecycle can often expose weaknesses elsewhere. So now on that point, that was powerful. And this is why they said combining DLT, you have the smart contracts doing performance certain actions, right? It locks that action in unless you change it, of course. So you have the DLT with smart contracts right there. But then they wanted to combine it with AI. Ripple talked about it. Flare talked about it. A lot of these companies have talked about combining DLT with AI. I believe also Hedera spoke on it. Don't quote me on that, but I think they were the other ones. That you can utilize the AI to constantly make sure that your system is reaching a state of homeostasis, a balance. So the AI is making sure that the balances remain. There's a balance there. It's making sure that weaknesses are being rapidly addressed. All right. The smart contracts are ensuring that the function performs every single time the same way. Then the mechanism that distributes the information on multiple of sources ensures that the information is 100% verified, that it is this way. This information is this, and it could be no other way. There's just too many ways to verify it. It literally solved DLT and the Bitcoin companies know this. They literally solve all of these problems. So when they walk into meetings, how do they not close those deals? I think that they do. I think they have a lot of partnerships that they're hiding. And I think we're starting to see some of them slip out, where these companies are making it seem like this is something that just happened. Oh, as an example, we talked to Ripple, and now we have this deal. They're acquiring us, or they're working with. Knowing very well, it takes a long time to establish those types of relationships, to test these things. You got to test things out. If let's say you're a small business owner, you're going to sell this mug or a cup, or you're going to sell a shirt. Do you not have to buy a sample and try it first? Try the shirt on, try the mug. See, does it leak? Is it strong? Is it heavy? What is it like? What does it look like in the lighting? Does it look as good in person as it does on the brochure, digital or otherwise? So they had to take the time to sample it and put it to use before they use the system. So that means that even though they're presenting these partnerships and acquirements like they just happened. No, that's not the truth. They had these for quite some time, which means there's others that they also have in their back pocket that they're hiding. They're just not ready to release it yet, the information, which also means this is not the big, even though a lot of this stuff that's been happening has been big, it's not the biggest, which is exciting. It's exciting. If you're a moneymaker, that is, it's exciting. All right, let's move on here. I'm not sure how long I took with that one. Big things happening right now. If you enjoyed this video so far, please click that like button. You know what? Let's do a little bit of Bitcoin news, since I'm not sure how long this video is now because I had to split it. All right. Bitcoin long-term holders quietly capitalizing. Let them, to each his own. They've reached their point. They want to take that value and do something with it. Go ahead, do it. Not advice. I'm just saying, let them. Analysts say, but that also means that what they're selling, the institutions are going to buy. They've been doing it. This is what the professional companies have said. And that's a beautiful thing for those who are in it a little longer. Why? Because those companies are going to ensure, even if they sell a little bit, they're not going to sell everything. They're expecting a much, much higher price. They've been buying from $90,000 up to now. Okay, so that means they're expecting it to go much higher. They're not here to make pennies, a pittance. They're not here to make this tiny little amount. No, they're here for big bucks. Make no mistake about it. Look, the potency of Bitcoin is so astronomical that even JP Morgan, their leader continues to rail against Bitcoin. Even JP Morgan had to allow their people to buy Bitcoin. They had to eat crow, so to speak, take the pie on their face and say, you know what? Yep, it's a moneymaker. Go ahead and make it. We can't hold you back. Make your money. Because their clients know they want that. They want that value. No matter how stubborn a company is, the truth is the truth. Bitcoin is a major moneymaker and everybody's going to want a piece of it. Anybody who's wise and has a little bit of value to spare, they're going to want a piece. And for some time in the future, I believe, personal opinion, you don't have to agree, I believe Bitcoin is going to do just that. It's going to make people some very healthy gains. Not without, there's going to be volatility, there's going to be drops, and I think a lot of it's going to be manipulated. They're going to try to shake the people out because the companies are here. And they want that. They'll pump it later once they get in position. But let's read this little tidbit. Let's go here. Analysts say that the long-term Bitcoin holders have been accumulating during the recent market stress, which has seen the cryptocurrency dip just below $109,000. Bitcoin markets recently experienced two major liquidation events, causing a cascade of forced selling from over-leveraged traders, but analysts say a distinct pattern has emerged. Quote, over-leveraged short-term holders were flushed out. Long-term holders have been quietly capitalizing on the reset, unquote. Crypto quant analyst Amir Taha said on Monday, my apologies, on May the 26th. And that's another reason why it's best to trust yourself. All right. It's best to trust yourself. You don't know. You could be talking to your friend. A lot of people do this. And I hate to say, sometimes you're too trusting of external people. And, that person might be selling and telling you to buy or something like this. I'm always cautious of that type of activity. No, trust yourself. If you want to sell, you sell. If you don't want to sell, you don't sell. This is up to you. You sleep better at night and you don't have to worry about trusting someone else. You don't know what's going on inside their mind. Money changes people. A lot of times money can make people, especially they're making a lot of value, they want to protect that value. I've seen some crazy things in my time, but anyway, they noted the first flush occurred when Bitcoin fell below $111,000 and over $97 million in long positions were liquidated. As its price broke $109,000, another $88 million in longs were wiped out in the second wave. It says, however, as short-term traders face margin calls and forced selling, long-term holders responded very differently and increased their accumulation. This caused the long-term holder realized capitalization to surge past $28 billion, a level not seen since April. Realized cap is a measure of the value of each Bitcoin based on the last time it was moved, rather than the current market price. Long-term investors are using this period of forced selling to increase their exposure and accumulate more Bitcoin for the long term, Amir Taha noted. Let me scroll back to the top because I believe it just... Did I misinterpret? Hold on, let me scroll back to the top. And you know what's interesting about that? My apologies for the little pause. What's interesting about that? Those sellers, they have to be people that have no regrets. You have to have no regrets if you're going to do such a thing. And who knows where they bought in? That's another question. Maybe they bought in very, very low. If you bought in very, very low during the bloody bear market, which gave people a lot of time to accumulate at a very, very low price, it definitely did. Heck of an opportunity. Then now you would make a good amount still. You sell now, to be quite honest. But at the same time, I think Bitcoin is going much higher. I do. Once again, not without its volatility, without its corrections. That's definitely going to be there. I wouldn't put it past them to really, really put a shock and scare into people. As a strategist, if I were on their side, we had a lot of dark energy going on, I would do that. I would shock the heck out of people and try to shake them out. Definitely would. So I could see them doing that. You have to think, when you're a strategist, you have to think on both sides. What would I do? What would my enemy do? Right. And if you think that way, then you can always sort of prepare for every possibility that you could perceive that your enemy, every move that your enemy might make, and come up with a counter move for that, or mentally prepare for it. Even if you don't have a counter move, sometimes you just have a raw defense. If you mentally prepare, and physically prepare for such a thing, you can weather the storm. That's when that technique comes out. But for most things, there are counter movements to them. So now it says, quote, rather than being shaken out by short-term volatility, they see these liquidations-driven dips as prime opportunities to strengthen their positions, reinforcing the foundation for future appreciation. Well, we've seen a mixture here. So we've seen a lot of articles where long-term holders are selling. So that is happening. Although this article brings you the other side, two things can be true at the same time. So some long-term investors are accumulating and some are selling. Short-term holders, obviously, they probably don't have as much history or love for Bitcoin. They're going to take profit. That makes perfect sense. But once again, no matter who's selling from retail side, the institutions, important point is the institutions are buying. The large companies, and in the future, I'm pretty sure countries are going to be really, really stacking up on Bitcoin. It's going to be so easy for them. They have all this power with the mainstream media to pump that Bitcoin price. Although that's not the biggest catalyst, I do see that as a catalyst for sure. 100%. This article is titled Gold Will Reach $4,000 an ounce. Silver will hit $40 an ounce toward year end as global turmoil resumes. It definitely did. I saw some things. For some reason, Google, I do a lot of searching on Google, trying to feed me news about geopolitical tensions in the world. And it's so strange because I don't look into that kind of information. I look into commodities, crypto, things like that, So I have seen it. Yes. There's so much geopolitical tension. I don't know how gold doesn't skyrocket. It may go past $4,000. And if it doesn't happen in 2025, maybe in 2026. But the potential is definitely there. But let's read this little tidbit here. This is the current correction in precious metal prices is the result of lower near-term geopolitical instability. But gold and silver will both post further gains in the second half of 2025, according to Francisco Blanche, head of global commodity and derivatives research at Bank of America Securities. So this is one of those high-paid researchers. I'm telling you, these companies have teams of researchers. They're not playing any games, and they're well paid just to find information. All right, so it's coming from a professional. Let's continue on. Quote, we've been calling for $3,500 $500 gold for the first half of this year, unquote, Blanche said in an interview with CNBC. Quote, we got there, and we feel the market's going through a correction right now that could last a few months. We're still bullish long term. I am as well. I'm very bullish on gold. I'm also bullish on silver, despite what people see. I'm bullish on silver as well. It says, we're still bullish long term. We think longer term, maybe into the second half or into 2026. I just said the same thing. I'm glad they clarified that. We'll breach $4,000 an ounce, but we're going through a correction because of some extreme uncertainty that we've witnessed in recent months, and it seems to be fading. We've gotten very close to $3,500 a couple of times, but to breach that level and keep moving up, we need some of this geopolitical turmoil, some of this policy uncertainty to creep back up again, unquote, he said. All right, so there you have it, folks. Right, so now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.